Theresa Caputo's tough decision, a new turn in Larry Jr.'s life. Theresa Caputo, of Long Island medium fame, recently surprised everyone with a sensational decision. She made it clear to her son Larry Caputo Jr.'s wife, Leah Munch, that she had to let him go. Because, according to Theresa, Leah will never be able to be a mother, and this is a major obstacle to their family future. Theresa didn't just stop there. She also planned a new wedding for her son. And surprisingly, she decided to bring this new bride home right in front of her previous wife, Leah. Unable to bear the humiliation, grief, and stress any longer, Leah Munch left home forever. It remains to be seen where Larry Jr.'s future will take him after this incident. Theresa Caputo had always claimed to see beyond the veil, but no one expected that her latest vision would tear her own family apart. It began one chilly November evening. Theresa summoned her son, Larry Jr., and his wife, Leah, to the kitchen table, a sacred spot in the Caputo household, often used for everything from family dinners to spiritual readings. But that night, there were no candles, no crystals, just the weight of a truth Theresa said had been whispered by the spirits. "Leah," she began, her voice firm but trembling, "you're not meant to be the mother of our next generation. I've seen it. It's not your destiny." Leah sat stunned, the color draining from her face. Larry Jr. looked between the two women, torn and silent. He had loved Leah since college, her quiet strength, her wit, her unwavering support. But he also deeply respected his mother and her gift, no matter how strange it seemed at times. Theresa continued, undeterred by their silence. "I've already found the woman who will carry on our family's spiritual legacy. Her name is Alessia. She's everything the spirits showed me, fertile, intuitive, strong, and she's coming here. Tonight." True to her word, Alessia arrived not an hour later, escorted by a cousin of Theresa's who claimed she, too, had felt the calling. The atmosphere shifted instantly, thick with tension, disbelief, and sorrow. Leah, unable to comprehend the betrayal and rejection, packed her bags the next morning. Her goodbye was silent. No tears, no anger, just an overwhelming sense of finality. Weeks passed. Larry Jr. found himself caught in a limbo between his mother's visions and the echo of Leah's absence. Alessia was kind and warm, but it wasn't the same. Nothing was. And then, one night, Larry had a dream. He was in a field of lavender, Leah's favorite flower. She stood there smiling, her hand on her belly. When he woke up, the scent of lavender lingered. Maybe the spirits had been wrong. Or maybe it was time for Larry Jr. to make his own choices, guided not by the voices of the dead, but by the pull of his own heart. However, it was a regular Tuesday afternoon on Long Island, and Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, decided to squeeze in a quick pedicure between back-to-back readings. She was seated comfortably in her favorite nail salon, lavender-scented steam wafting through the air as a cheerful technician worked on her feet. Just as she was settling in and enjoying the foot soak, Theresa's eyes fluttered open. Something had shifted. That familiar, tingling buzz hit her like a jolt of static. A spirit was trying to come through. She sighed, blowing gently on her iced coffee straw. "Really? Now," she muttered. The spirit was a teenage boy, maybe 17. Shaggy hair, bright eyes, and an energy that screamed mischief. His name was Jake. "I'm looking for my mom," he said, floating beside Theresa's massage chair with a cocky grin. Theresa rolled her eyes playfully. "Can you wait till the top coat, Jake?" But Jake had other plans. As the pedicurist leaned down to scrub Theresa's heel, the bowl bubbled suddenly, extra hard. The water splashed up. The pedicurist gasped. "Oh, did you see that?" "Oh-huh," Theresa said, narrowing her eyes at Jake. "You think you're funny." Jake winked and snapped his ghostly fingers. The pedicurist's iPod suddenly skipped songs, landing on the track Ghostbusters. Theresa snorted. "You're a little prankster, aren't you?" Then, without warning, Jake knocked over a bottle of hot pink polish on the counter behind them. It spilled slowly, the word "Hi, Mom" forming in the mess. Theresa gasped. Okay, I get it. She sat up straighter, brushing the hair out of her eyes, tuning in. There's a woman here, brunette, red hoodie, Theresa said aloud, scanning the salon. A lady in the waiting area looked up from her phone, eyes wide. Your son Jake, he's here. He's got a big personality and, he really likes messing with electronics and polish. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. Jake? That's my Jake. Theresa smiled gently, nodding. He just wanted you to know he's okay, and still causing trouble. As Jake faded away with a final wink, the pedicurist whispered, This is the weirdest spa day I've ever had. Theresa just laughed, sipping her coffee again. Welcome to my life. However, it was a rainy afternoon in Long Island when Theresa Caputo prepared her space for a private family reading. The scent of sage lingered in the air as soft instrumental music played in the background. A woman named Anna had reached out to Theresa, seeking closure after the sudden loss of her mother, Maria, nearly a year ago. Anna arrived with her younger brother, Michael, both skeptical but hopeful. As they settled into their seats, Theresa closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Within moments, her signature wide-eyed expression changed. Okay, your mother is here, Theresa said softly. She's strong, very strong, and she wants me to tell you she never suffered. She says it was peaceful. Anna's eyes welled up. Her mother had passed in her sleep, but she had always... She's showing me a rosary. Did she hold it every night? Theresa asked. Anna nodded. She never went to bed without it. Theresa smiled. She said she still holds it. She says you kept it under your pillow. That was her way of staying with you. Michael, who hadn't said a word, suddenly looked up. She's also mentioning a blue dress, Theresa added. The one with the tiny white flowers? Tears ran down Anna's face. That was the dress they had buried her in. She picked it, Theresa said gently. She says, Thank you, baby. You remembered what I loved. Then Theresa paused, holding her chest. She says, I'm so proud of you. Tell Michael not to be so hard on himself. I forgave him before he even knew he needed forgiveness. Michael broke down, releasing a guilt he had carried for missing her last phone call. As the reading ended, the storm outside began to clear. A beam of sunlight streamed through the window, and for a moment, they all felt her presence, warm, comforting, eternal. However, it was Christmas Eve in the small town of Bellport, Long Island. The snow fell softly, covering the streets in a thick white blanket. Emma Russo, a single mom of two, was busy in the kitchen, trying to recreate her late grandmother's famous sugar cookies. No matter how many times she tried, they never quite tasted the same. Her kids were already asleep, and as she stirred the dough with frustration, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? When she opened the door, there stood Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, in a leopard print coat and her signature bouffant hair. Hi, honey, Theresa said with a warm smile. I know this is unexpected, but I had a very strong feeling I needed to be here tonight. May I come in? Emma, starstruck and confused, stepped aside. Of course, but how did you? Theresa raised a hand gently. Sweetheart, I was wrapping gifts at home when your grandmother came through to me. She wouldn't stop talking about her sugar cookies and how you're missing the magic. Emma gasped. My Nana? Theresa nodded. She says you keep forgetting the orange zest. That's what made them extra sweet. Emma burst into tears. She had completely forgotten that detail. Theresa walked into the kitchen, took a deep breath, and said, She's also saying, check behind the flour jar. Emma reached behind the jar, and to her astonishment, there was a small yellowed index card she had never seen before. It was her Nana's original handwritten recipe with a note at the bottom. Don't forget the orange zest, amore. They baked the cookies together in peaceful silence, the warm smell of citrus and vanilla filling the air. Before Theresa left, She hugged Emma and whispered, "She's always with you, especially during the holidays." And she says, "Your kids are going to love the cookies this year." Emma waved as Theresa disappeared into the snowy night, leaving behind a kitchen full of sweetness and a heart full of connection. However, Theresa Caputo, the renowned Long Island medium, had always felt a deep calling to help others connect with their loved ones who had passed. Her gift had brought peace to many, but one day she received an unexpected request. A prison in Long Island reached out to her, asking if she would visit the facility to offer her readings to the inmates. Initially, Theresa was hesitant. She had never considered working with people in jail, and the idea of entering such a closed-off environment felt daunting. But she felt a sudden surge of intuition, telling her that this was something she was meant to do. After some contemplation, she agreed to the request, hoping that her readings could offer healing to those who needed it most. On the day of the visit, Theresa arrived at the prison gates, her heart pounding with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. As she walked through the corridors, the heavy steel doors closing behind her, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to embark on a journey unlike any she had ever experienced. The first inmate Theresa met was Marcus, a man in his mid-30s with a tough exterior but a sadness in his eyes. He had been convicted of a crime he regretted deeply, and his guilt weighed heavily on his soul. As Theresa sat across from him, she immediately sensed a presence, an older woman, someone who had been close to Marcus in his life. She asked him if there was a woman he had lost, and Marcus's face softened, his eyes welling up with tears. "My grandmother," he whispered, voice trembling. "I haven't been able to forgive myself for the things I did before she passed. I never got to say goodbye." Theresa nodded, her voice gentle but firm. "She's here, Marcus. She's telling me she forgives you. She wants you to know that it's time to forgive yourself. She's at peace, and she wants you to find peace too." The reading was brief, but the transformation in Marcus was immediate. He stood up slowly, his posture less burdened, as though a weight had been lifted. For the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of hope. Over the course of the day, Theresa connected with several other inmates, each of them carrying their own stories of regret, grief, and loss. One by one, she brought messages from their loved ones, messages that offered them comfort, closure, and, in some cases, a second chance to heal. By the end of her visit, Theresa felt emotionally drained but fulfilled. As she was escorted out of the facility, the warden thanked her, his voice filled with gratitude. "You've given these men something they never thought they'd receive, peace of mind. You've reminded them that they're not alone." Theresa smiled softly. Sometimes all it takes is a little reminder that there's love on the other side. That's what these men needed to hear. As she left the prison, the weight of the experience lingered with her. It had been a challenging day, but she knew that her gift had touched lives in a way she never expected. In the end, she realized that healing wasn't just about bringing comfort to those who were free. It was also about reaching out to those who were behind bars, offering them the chance to reconnect with the love they thought they'd lost forever. However, Theresa Caputo stood on the stage, her usual confident smile lighting up her face as the audience settled into their seats. The night was thick with anticipation. A quiet energy swirled in the air, like 1,000 whispers waiting to be heard. Tonight's session was special. Theresa had felt it even before she entered the venue. It was as though the spirits themselves were preparing for something important. The room buzzed with emotion, the murmurs of loved ones hoping to hear from those they had lost. She began, her hands lightly placed over her heart, a soft prayer to the universe escaping her lips. Then she closed her eyes for a moment. "All right," Theresa said, her voice strong but soothing. "I'm being drawn to a woman, a mother figure. Her energy is loud, like she's demanding to be heard." The crowd went silent, all eyes on her. "She's here, and she's not alone. I'm seeing flashes of light, like a beacon. She wants me to say something to her daughter." I feel this overwhelming sense of urgency, like time is running out. A woman in the front row began to sob quietly. Theresa locked eyes with her. Is this you? Theresa asked gently. The woman nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, my mom. She passed a few months ago. Theresa's heart swelled with empathy. Your mother wants you to know that she's been watching over you. She's proud of you, and she's seen your struggles. But there's something she needs to tell you, something she couldn't say before she passed. The audience held its breath, knowing this was a pivotal moment. Theresa felt the pull of the spirit once again. She says, do not blame yourself. You did everything you could. I am at peace now, and I want you to find peace too. You are not alone. The woman gasped, her hands trembling. I didn't know what more I could do, she whispered, overwhelmed with emotion. Theresa gave her a warm, reassuring smile. Your mother knows. She's telling me now that you've done enough. It's time for you to heal. As the energy in the room shifted, a sense of calm settled over everyone present. Theresa's gift had once again opened the doorway between the physical world and the spiritual one, bringing peace to a grieving soul. And just as suddenly as it started, the connection faded. Theresa felt the pull of another spirit, but the message was clear: healing had begun. However, Theresa Caputo stood in the quiet room, the faint hum of energy surrounding her as she closed her eyes. It was a moment of stillness, but within that silence, something powerful was stirring. She could feel it, a presence, but it wasn't just any spirit. This was a soul with a story too painful to speak aloud. As Theresa tuned into the spirit world, the connection became clearer. A young woman, her face clouded with sadness, appeared before her. She was dressed in a flowing dress, but the energy surrounding her was cold, distant. Theresa knew this wasn't a peaceful spirit. The woman's name was Emily, and she had taken her own life, trapped in the turmoil of her thoughts and emotions. Her spirit had been wandering, unable to find peace, unable to rest. She had taken that final step, believing there was no way out. But now, in the afterlife, she regretted her choice, and the weight of her pain still clung to her. Theresa felt the heavy sorrow that Emily carried. The woman's soul had been silently screaming for help for years, and now her voice was reaching out through Theresa. Emily, Theresa whispered softly, her eyes still closed. I hear you, I know you're here, and I understand your pain, but you don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. Let me help you. The room seemed to grow colder, and Emily's presence became even more intense. Theresa reached out with her spirit, trying to connect with the energy that had been lost in the chaos of Emily's last moments. She could feel the confusion, the desperation of a soul that couldn't find the light. Theresa began to channel Emily's emotions, sharing in her grief, her sense of isolation. She saw flashes of Emily's life, her struggle, her heartache, and the overwhelming weight that had led to her tragic decision. But amidst the pain, there was also a flicker of hope. I know you wanted peace, Emily, Theresa continued, her voice steady but filled with compassion. You thought that ending your life would end the pain, but now you know that the journey doesn't end. You still have a chance for healing. Slowly, Emily's energy shifted. The heaviness began to lift, and Theresa could feel the spirit soften. It wasn't an immediate transformation, but it was a start. Emily's soul was beginning to understand that her journey didn't have to be defined by that moment of despair. Theresa opened her eyes, the connection fading as Emily's spirit began to move toward the light. You're not alone, Emily. You've been heard. Let go of the past and allow yourself to heal. There is peace waiting for you. The room was warm now, the energy lighter. The haunting sadness that had once consumed Emily's spirit had begun to dissipate. Theresa smiled gently, knowing that while Emily's journey was far from over, she had taken the first step toward finding peace. As the session ended, Theresa stood quietly, her heart heavy with the weight of the message she had just delivered. But she also felt a sense of fulfillment. In her role, she was more than just a medium. She was a guide, helping lost souls find their way back to the light, one step at a time. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.